Some nights begin with a quiet that feels like a warning. On the night our baby cried, the house heard it first. The walls shivered, the curtains moved without wind. And I learned that love does not sleep when danger walks. My name is Mira. I am 15 years old, and I have a baby brother named Somto. He is only 3 weeks old. His fingers are tiny, like the legs of a new butterfly. He holds my thumb as if the world might break if he lets go. He does not know the world is already trying to. Our mother is gone. She left with the dawn the day Somto arrived. I think she traded her breath for his. People came and cried and said kind words. They brought rice and stew and empty bowls of comfort. They said time heals. Time did not heal. Time only taught me where the emptiness sits. After the funeral, Father married in a hurry. He said a baby needs a woman in the house. He said a home cannot stand with only grief and a teenage girl. Her name is Madame Funke. She came with clean clothes and a smile that did not reach her eyes. She moved through our rooms like a new queen. She opened drawers. She touched the picture of our mother. She turned it face down and said dust was gathering on the glass. Father is a kind man, but grief made him blind. He is a teacher. He sits at the small table in the living room and marks papers until late at night. He tells me to rest. He tells me to trust. He does not see the way Madame Funk watches the baby with a cold, still face. He does not see the way she hides her little bottles in the pocket of her wrapper. I see it. Mothers leave, but daughters stay awake. On the first week after the wedding, strange things began. The mirror in our hallway fogged from the inside even when there was no heat. A thin smell of hibiscus filled the passage at night. Once I heard a lullaby floating from the empty kitchen. It was the lullaby Mama used to sing. I sat up in bed and pressed my hands to my chest. I whispered, "Mama, are you there?" Only the clock answered, one tick at a time, like footsteps walking away. That evening, Madame Funke returned from the market with a small paper parcel pressed tight in her palm. I asked what she bought. She smiled and said spices. She said the baby needs strong tea. I stood between her and the pot. I said Somto drinks only milk. She laughed and said I am a child and do not know. Then she put the parcel away and told me to sweep the yard. I watched her when she thought I was not looking. She rubbed something dark on the inside of the baby's cradle. She wiped her fingers on a cloth and burned the cloth in a little flame on the stove. She whispered words I could not hear. The flame made no sound. Even the pot of water stopped bubbling to listen. I wanted to tell Father, but he was tired and thin. He had a headache and the papers of his students were piled high. He kissed Somto and told me to let Madame Funke handle things. He said peace matters. He said families grow through patience. I nodded. Then I locked my door and cried into my pillow so my fear would not be loud. That night the power went out. The house fell into a heavy dark, the kind that makes you think you are underwater. I lit a candle and set it by the baby's bed. His chest rose and fell like a tiny sea. I pulled the stool close and sang the lullaby in a low voice. I do not have Mama's voice, but I have her words. I sang until my throat ached. When the clock reached midnight, the front gate creaked. It was a small sound, but it pulled every hair on my arms to a point. I stood and peered through the curtain. The yard was empty. The mango tree bent toward the house like it wanted to speak. Then I heard another soft sound, the door to the storeroom at the back. A careful hand. A careful step. I took the baby in my arms, but he was asleep. He felt warm and safe and heavy with trust. I told myself I was foolish. I told myself the sound was a rat, a loose hinge, the night stretching its back. I laid him down again. I blew out the candle to hide our light. The moon sent a pale line across the floor, a path from the door to the cradle. I did not hear Madame Funk enter. She was suddenly there at the corner of the room, wearing a wrapper with red flowers. Her eyes shone in the dark like the eyes of a cat. She smiled, but the smile had no life. She did not look at me. She looked at the cradle. I stepped in front of it. I said, "The baby is sleeping." She said, "I know." Her voice was low and calm. It was the voice a river uses when it hides a deep place. She reached into the pocket of her wrapper and took out the paper parcel from the market. She unfolded it with slow hands. Inside was black powder, fine and quiet, like the ash of a burnt prayer. I said, "What is that?" She said, "Blessing powder." I said, "No." She said, "Do not be rude." She said, "Your father wants me to care for him." She said, "I am his mother now." The word mother came out of her mouth like a lie with a dress on. She took one step toward the crib. I took one step too. My knees shook, but I did not move aside. She raised the parcel as if to sprinkle the black dust. The baby turned his head and made a small sound, half yawn, half sigh. Then he opened his mouth and cried. I have heard babies cry before. This was not a normal cry. It was a long, clear sound that did not feel like it came only from his throat. It moved through the air and touched the walls. The candle I had blown out flared for a second without a flame. The picture of my mother on the shelf turned itself face up. The smell of hibiscus filled the room. The hair on my neck rose. The house exhaled. Madame Funke froze. Her hand trembled. The black powder spilled a little and made a stain on her wrist like a dark bracelet. She stared at the crib, then at the picture of Mama. Her eyes widened. I heard a soft song, very gentle, like someone singing from another room with a door half open. It was Mama's lullaby. Each note was a thread. It wrapped around the baby and around me. It did not wrap around her. The air changed. It became cool and sweet. The moonlight in the room deepened. I saw what I should not have been able to see. The curtain lifted though the window was closed. A light glowed near the cradle. It was not bright like fire. It was a quiet light like the inside of a shell. In it, for a moment, I saw the shape of a woman's hands. They were the hands that used to braid my hair. They rested on the edge of the crib. The baby stopped crying and smiled. He smiled like he knew a secret. Tears filled my eyes and fell without sound. I whispered, "Mama." The light trembled, as if it heard. Madame Funke stepped back. The black stain on her wrist spread, thin lines crawling like small roots under the skin. She gasped and rubbed at it, but it would not leave. The room felt full of watching, not angry, not cruel, only very awake. Only very exact. I heard a voice. It was not loud. It was not even outside. It was in the place where grief sits, the place I had kept quiet. It said one word. It said, "Enough." Madame Funke dropped the parcel. The black powder burst on the floor like a small night. The baby laughed, a soft, tiny laugh, and the sound rang like a bell made of water. The door behind Madame Funke closed by itself with a gentle click. The window latch settled on its own. The house held its breath. She looked at me, and for the first time there was fear in her face. Her lips shook. She tried to speak. No sound came. The dark bracelet on her wrist tightened, and she went very still, as if something invisible had taken her hand and would not let go. The lullaby stopped. The room fell into a deep quiet. I felt the shape of a promise hang over us like a veil. The picture of Mama did not fall again. The light by the crib thinned to a soft shimmer and faded into the moon. The baby slept. His breath was steady. I stood with my back against the cradle. My heart beat in my mouth. I could taste the salt of my tears. Madame Funke's eyes moved to the shelf where Mama's picture stood. She stared as if the eyes in the picture were real and alive. Then she whispered a name that was not hers. It was a secret name, a name I had never heard. The bracelet mark on her wrist shone for a second and sank deeper. She tried to open the door. It did not open. I did not know what the house would do next. I did not know what the spirit had decided. I only knew one thing. The baby's cry had called someone. And someone had answered. The handle of the door turned by itself. The wind rose without a breeze. Madame Funk's mouth fell open as a second voice, soft and clear and patient, spoke from the dark and called her by her childhood name. The door handle turned by itself, and the air grew heavy as if unseen hands pressed down on the house. Madame Funke's lips trembled. She whispered again, this time louder, a name I did not know. Adatola. Her voice cracked. It sounded like a confession breaking loose after years of silence. The baby shifted in his sleep and let out a soft coo, innocent and untouched, yet his presence seemed to command the whole room. I could not move. My knees were weak, but something inside me told me not to show fear. Mama's picture still faced outward on the shelf, her eyes fixed on Funke. The dark mark on Funke's wrist now pulsed like a heartbeat, glowing faintly, spreading veins of black under her skin. She clawed at it with her nails, but it only sank deeper, climbing up her arm. Suddenly the door opened wide with a loud creak. The corridor beyond was swallowed in shadows. From it came the sound of a lullaby, slow, steady, familiar, the very same one Mama used to sing, but this time lower, colder, carrying sorrow and warning. Madame Funk staggered backward, her parcel of black powder slipping from her grasp. She shook her head violently, whispering, "No, not again. I buried you." I buried all of this. I didn't understand. My heart pounded like a drum inside my chest. "Who are you talking to?" I asked, though my voice came out small. She turned to me with wide, tear-filled eyes, and for the first time, her mask broke. "Your mother," she hissed. "You don't know the kind of woman she was. You think she left the world quietly, but she made a covenant before she died, a covenant that would bind her to this child." The words hit me like a cold wind. My mother? A covenant? My mind spun, but the spirit in the house did not wait for me to make sense of it. The lullaby grew louder, and a shape began to form in the corridor, a faint, glowing outline of a woman, her steps soft but certain. Her face was blurred by the light, but her hands were clear, reaching forward. It was Mama. I knew it. I felt it. Madame Funke screamed. The dark stain on her arm crawled higher to her neck. She tried to run, but the door slammed shut again, trapping her inside. She fell to her knees, begging, her voice breaking. "Please, let me go. I only wanted a child of my own. I only wanted what was taken from me." Her words stunned me. A child of her own? I looked at her, really looked. For the first time, she did not look like a wicked stepmother. She looked like a woman eaten alive by emptiness, clinging to something dark because she had nothing else left. Tears streamed down her face, yet the blackness continued to choke her. Mama's spirit stopped near the cradle. She looked at me, though her eyes were hidden. Her presence was soft, but it carried weight. In my heart, I heard her voice. Protect him. Protect Somto. Then she turned her gaze to Funke, and the room grew colder. The baby stirred again and let out another cry, sharper this time. The sound pierced the silence, and with it came a sudden twist. The walls of the house shook, dust fell from the ceiling, and a hidden compartment in the floor near the bed cracked open. A small wooden box lay buried inside, half rotted with age. I gasped. Funk's eyes darted to it, wild and desperate. "No!" she cried, crawling toward the box. "Don't open it, please, don't open it!" But Mama's spirit raised her hand, and the lid of the box lifted on its own. Inside was a tiny cloth bundle tied with a faded red string. The smell that escaped was sharp, bitter, unnatural. Even the baby whimpered. I covered my mouth, tears streaming down my cheeks. "Do you see now?" Mama's voice echoed, not in sound but inside me. "This is the seed she planted long ago, the curse she thought she buried. It cannot be hidden any longer." Funke collapsed on the ground, sobbing. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I only wanted to stop the crying. I only wanted to silence the spirits that haunted me." Her hands shook violently. "Please, take me instead. Leave me in peace." But peace was gone. The house was alive with judgment. The baby's cry had woken something bigger than me, bigger than her. It had pulled Mama from the grave, and now the truth was unravelling. I stood frozen, watching as the black stain reached Funke's face. She screamed, clutching her throat, then her eyes rolled back. The spirit's light flared brighter, filling the room with both comfort and terror. And just when I thought it was over, when I thought Mama would end it all, the baby opened his eyes. Wide, clear, innocent. He stopped crying and looked at Madame Funke. Then he smiled. The blackness paused. It froze, suspended in her veins. Funke gasped, looking at him as though she saw something I could not. Her tears fell faster, her voice breaking. Mercy. He has mercy in his eyes. Mama's spirit dimmed, her figure trembling. The room grew still but heavy with a decision yet to be made. The baby's smile seemed to hold the answer. And then a whisper floated through the air, chilling and certain. The baby decides her fate. The room held its breath after the whisper. The baby decides her fate. The words coiled around my heart like chains, leaving me trembling. How could a baby, my little brother who could not even lift his head for long, decide the fate of a grown woman? Madame Funke knelt on the floor, shaking, her face pale, her lips cracked from fear. Tears poured down her cheeks, cutting lines into the dust on her skin. Her eyes darted between me, the baby, and the glowing spirit of my mother. The black stain crawling up her neck pulsed as though it was alive, hungry to devour her completely. Somto's eyes, wide and glistening, fixed on her. His little mouth curved into the faintest smile. It wasn't an ordinary smile, it was almost knowing, as if he carried something older, something wiser, deep inside him. The air shimmered, and the house seemed to lean forward, listening to what would happen next. Funke stretched out her hand toward the cradle, not to harm him this time, but to beg. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, little one. Forgive me. I lost my baby years ago. I buried him under a tree with no name. Since that day, my arms have been empty. My womb became dry, my nights filled with voices. I only wanted to fill the hollow inside me. I only wanted to hold a child again." Her words cut through me like a blade. For the first time, I saw her not as a monster, but as a woman broken by grief. My mother's spirit flickered, but the glow around her stayed strong, holding back the darkness. Somto blinked. Then, without warning, he let out a sound. Not a cry, not a laugh, a single sharp wail that turned into silence almost immediately. The black stain on Funke's neck halted, frozen in place. She gasped for air, clutching her throat, her body trembling as though she stood at the edge of two worlds. Life and death. "Mama," I whispered into the air, "please don't let him carry this weight. He's only a baby." My tears blurred my sight, but I could feel the spirit watching me. A deep sadness filled the room, as though Mama was crying too. Then came the twist, something I never expected. The lullaby changed. It was no longer Mama's voice, it was a man's. Deep, sorrowful, echoing from far away. The sound made Funke fall to the ground, wailing, "No, not him! Don't bring him here!" I stared at her, confused. "Who is that?" Funke's lips trembled. "My husband," she whispered. "The father of the child I lost. He cursed me before he died. He said I would never know peace, never know love, until I paid for the blood that cried in the ground." The air grew colder, the walls groaned. In the corner of the room the shadows thickened, shaping into the tall outline of a man. His face was hidden, but his presence was heavy with judgment. He moved toward Funke slowly, his voice breaking the silence. "You tried to bury the past with lies, Funke. But blood always speaks." Funke screamed, curling into herself, begging for mercy. She reached out toward the cradle, her voice torn and desperate. "Let the baby speak for me. Let his innocence cover my sin." The spirit of Mama stood taller now, her glow fierce, protecting Somto, yet she did not move against the man's shadow. Instead, she turned her unseen eyes toward me. I felt her voice inside me again. Mira, you must choose too. Will you let vengeance rule, or will you let mercy breathe? I froze. My chest heaved with fear. I wanted Funka to suffer. I wanted her gone for all the pain she had brought. But looking at her, shaking, broken, begging, I saw another truth. She was not born wicked. She was made wicked by wounds no one healed. Before I could speak, Somto laughed. A baby's laugh, soft and innocent, but it cracked the darkness like thunder. The black stain recoiled, pulling back from Funka's skin, leaving her gasping in relief. The shadow man's form shuddered, his voice breaking into a cry of grief before dissolving into smoke. The room fell silent. Mama's spirit dimmed slowly, her glow fading like dawn. She touched the cradle once more, her hands gentle before turning toward the door. I heard her final whisper in my heart, "Protect him." The story is not over. This house remembers. Then she was gone. Funk collapsed, sobbing into the floor, her body weak, her spirit shattered. She looked up at me with hollow eyes. "He spared me," she whispered. "The child spared me. But I am bound to him now. My life belongs to him." I trembled, holding Somto close. My heart was torn between relief and dread. Something inside me knew this was not the end. It was only the beginning, for a baby's cry had awakened not just one spirit, but a chain of secrets buried too long. And as I rocked Somto in my arms, a chilling thought slipped into my mind, one I could not push away. If the baby could decide her fate tonight, what other fates would his cry awaken tomorrow? The house was quiet, but it was not peace. Quiet after a storm is heavy, the kind that carries secrets in its silence. I held Somto close, his tiny body warm against mine. He drifted back to sleep as though nothing had happened, but I could not shake the words. The story is not over. This house remembers. Madame Funk still lay on the floor, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Her face was streaked with tears, and though the black stain had retreated, her skin was pale, almost grey. She looked at me, her eyes red and swollen. "You don't understand," she whispered, her voice broken. "Your mother knew this would happen. She tied her spirit to the child before she died. She trapped me in this fate." I froze. "My mother?" "No," I said, my throat tight. "She loved us. She wouldn't—" Funka shook her head violently. Love and fear are two sides of the same knife. She knew the world wanted the child gone. She knew I had been chosen. She bound herself to him so I could never touch him without facing her. Her words came like stones, hard and bitter. "She cursed me before you ever saw my face." My heart twisted. Was it true? Had Mama known? I wanted to defend her, but deep down, I remembered the way the picture had turned itself upright, the way her spirit lingered, fierce and watchful. Perhaps love had made her chain herself to the child, even from the grave. I was about to answer when the ground beneath us gave a dull crack. I looked down. The wooden floor near the cradle shifted, splitting slightly at the edges. My chest tightened. I thought it was the old box again, but no. It was deeper this time. The wood creaked and pulled apart, as though something below wanted to come out. Funk screamed, backing against the wall. "No, not again! Not again!" The split widened, and a faint light bled from below. Somto stirred in my arms, his little face scrunching. Then he cried out, sharp, piercing, louder than before. The whole house trembled with it. The cupboard doors banged open, plates rattled, and the very air shook. From the crack in the floor, a sound rose. Not Mama's voice, not the man's voice. This was different, hundreds of whispers all at once, weaving together. It was like the voices of children crying and laughing, calling and fading. My blood ran cold. Funk's nails dug into the wall. "They're here," she muttered. "The others, the ones taken. The ones I could not save." Her voice broke into sobs. "I thought it was over. I thought only your mother would haunt me, but the baby has opened them all. I clutched Somto tighter, rocking him, begging him softly, please, little one, stop crying, please. But his wail only grew louder, his body arching with a strength I didn't know he had. His cry filled every corner, and with each sound, the crack spread wider. A gust of cold air rushed out, knocking the candle to the floor. Shadows stretched long and twisted across the walls. Then I saw them, shapes rising from the crack, faint outlines of tiny bodies, children with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. My breath caught in my throat. They floated upward, their whispers overlapping like waves. Funka collapsed, clutching her ears. They want me. They've come for me. But then, twist. One of the shadows turned, not toward her, but toward me. A small figure, a little girl with braided hair, reached out her hand. She had no face, but something in my heart recognized her. My knees buckled. "Who are you?" I whispered, tears streaming down my cheeks. The little shadow tilted her head, then touched Somto's foot gently. He stopped crying for one moment, his eyes wide, as if he knew her. Then she whispered, clear enough for me to hear, though her lips never moved, "He carries us all." The room spun. My chest heaved as I clutched Somto, who had gone quiet, staring at the shadow children with wide, unblinking eyes. Funk screamed, shaking her head. "No, that's not possible, not again. I buried them all. I buried the past." The children's voices rose, overlapping into a haunting chant. Mama's spirit was gone, but something greater had been awakened. Not just one spirit, not just one curse. My baby brother's cry had become a call to every buried voice, every forgotten child, every secret that the ground had tried to hold. And as the shadows surrounded us, I realized the truth that made my heart stop. This wasn't just about saving Somto. This was about uncovering a history of blood, one that began long before he was born. And now the baby's cry would not rest until every secret was told. The shadows thickened until the room felt like a graveyard. Their whispers filled the air, soft at first, then louder, like a choir of grief that refused to be silenced. I held Somto so tightly my arms shook, but he didn't resist. His eyes, those innocent, wide eyes, were fixed on the children as though he could see something I could not. Madame Funka screamed again, her voice raw. "Go back! Leave me alone!" She beat her fists against the wall, her nails tearing into her own skin. "I buried you. I gave you to the earth so you would stop haunting me." Her words sent a chill through my bones. My chest heaved as I tried to understand. "Buried who?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What did you do?" Her head snapped toward me, her eyes wild, full of tears and terror. "They were not mine," she spat, trembling. "They were given to me. Infants, weak, unwanted. They said the land needed sacrifice for wealth, for rain, for health. They made me do it. They made me carry them to the earth. I was only a girl, Mira. Only a girl. And now they won't stop." My heart cracked open. I stumbled back, clutching Somto tighter. The whispers swelled, the shadow children circling her, their tiny fingers reaching for her body, their cries echoing like broken lullabies. The house groaned as though it remembered too, every wall shaking with the weight of her confession. But then the twist. One of the children broke away from the circle and came toward me again, the little girl with braided hair. She reached her hand toward Somto's face and whispered clearly, "He is not just your brother. He is the doorway. Through him, justice will walk." The words tore through me like fire. A doorway? My baby brother? My chest tightened until I could hardly breathe. I looked down at Somto, only weeks old, and yet his small fingers reached toward the shadow girl without fear. The room flickered with a dim blue light, wrapping him like a mantle. Funk crawled across the floor, dragging herself closer to us. "Please!" she cried, her voice shaking. "Beg him to forgive me. If he seals my fate, I am finished." She clutched at my ankle, her grip cold and desperate. You don't understand, Mira. If they take me, they will not stop with me. They will take the ones who gave me the children too. Your father's people. Your blood. I froze, my stomach lurching. My father's... What? Her lips trembled, her eyes wide. Ask him. Ask your father where the wealth of this family came from. Ask him why your mother feared for the baby's life even before he was born. He knows the blood bargain. He knows. The room fell into a tense silence. The shadows hissed, restless, circling. My heart banged against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. Could it be true? Could father, gentle grieving father, be tied to this darkness too? Somto let out another sharp cry, louder this time, and the floor beneath us cracked open even wider. A blast of icy wind surged upward, nearly knocking me off my feet. The shadows screamed in unison, their voices like knives, and the smell of damp earth filled the air. From the crack rose something larger. Not a child this time, a figure cloaked in ash and smoke, its face hidden, its presence heavy enough to bend the air around it. The shadow children bowed their heads to it. Madame Funker shrieked, clawing at her face. No, not him! Not the keeper! The figure raised its head slowly, its voice deep and thundering, shaking the walls. The baby has called me. The debts of the blood bargain must be paid. I stood frozen, Somto pressed to my chest, tears burning down my face. I didn't know if the spirit meant Funk, or all of us. And then, with a twist sharp enough to rip my heart apart, the keeper pointed. Not at Funker, but at the cradle. At Somto. The keeper's shadow loomed over the cradle, but just as its hand stretched towards Somto, the baby's cry split the air again. Not a weak wail. This time it was thunder, shaking the rafters, rattling the windows, echoing far beyond the walls of the house. The ground itself seemed to push back against the spirit. The keeper recoiled, its smoky figure flickering. The shadow children shrank back, whispering in panic. And then, suddenly, the house fell into silence, like someone had pressed a hand over the mouth of the night. Somto stopped crying. He opened his eyes, wide and bright, but they were no longer just baby eyes. They carried a glow, golden and steady, like fire trapped in glass. My whole body went numb. I couldn't breathe. My brother didn't look like my brother anymore. Funk gasped and crawled backward, her face twisted in terror. It's him, she whispered. The one your mother prayed for. The one the ancestors promised. That child is not just a child. He carries a spirit older than us all. My knees shook as I clutched him closer. You're lying, I said, though my voice trembled. He's only my brother. Only a baby. Her head snapped up, her tears running freely. No, Mira, you don't understand. Your mother begged the gods for a son. She traded her own life for him. That is why she died when he was born. He is the bargain, the answer and the punishment at the same time. A vessel of justice. He doesn't just awaken spirits, he commands them. The words tore through me. My throat tightened until I could barely breathe. My mother had given her life for him, and now he carried something so heavy, something that made even shadows bow. The keeper stepped back, its smoky body trembling. He is marked. The covenant protects him, it said in a low rumble. But the covenant binds the bloodline. The father must pay. My blood froze. The father, Funk let out a bitter laugh through her sobs. Yes, Mira. Your father. Do you think your mother feared me more than him? She knew. She knew the blood bargain came from his side. He gave children of the clan one by one for prosperity. That's why the shadows scream. That's why I was chosen to deliver them. I shook my head violently, my tears falling hot. No, my father is a good man. He's not capable of this. But then, pieces began to fit together. The strange wealth that appeared after years of poverty. The way father avoided my questions about Mama's sickness. The constant papers on his table, his sleepless nights. Was he hiding more than grief? Somto's eyes glowed brighter. The shadows swirled around us, restless, as if waiting for something. Then he reached his tiny hand toward the door. The latch clicked. The door swung open on its own. And standing there, pale and tired, was Father. His eyes widened as he saw the scene, the shadows, the keeper, Funk trembling, me clutching Somto like my life depended on it. His lips parted, but no words came. The keeper's voice thundered again. The blood bargain cannot be hidden. Tonight, the debt must be paid. I turned to Father, my chest breaking, my voice shaking as I cried out, "Papa, tell me it isn't true. Tell me you didn't give them children. Tell me Somto isn't cursed because of you." He lowered his head. His hands trembled, and with tears slipping down his cheeks, he whispered, "I thought I could protect you from the truth." The words dropped from Father's lips like stones into a well. I thought I could protect you from the truth. My heart stopped. I stared at him, my arms tightening around Somto until he whimpered softly. The shadows swirled behind me, restless, as though waiting for his next breath. The keeper stood silent, a towering figure of smoke, its glowing eyes fixed only on my father. "Protect me," my voice cracked, trembling with both fear and anger. "Protect me from what, Papa? From yourself?" His face crumpled, grief and shame etched deep into every line. He looked older than I had ever seen him, broken under the weight of something he could no longer carry. "Mira," he whispered, his voice barely holding together, "when I was younger, the land was cruel. Your grandmother was dying, the harvest was empty, and our people were starving. The elders spoke of a covenant, an ancient one. They said the spirits required innocence to keep the clan alive. Children, Mira. They demanded children." I shook my head violently, tears burning my eyes. "No, no, no. You didn't." He fell to his knees, clutching his chest, sobbing. "I didn't want it. God knows I didn't. But they forced me, my bloodline bound to the covenant. They said if I didn't obey, the curse would wipe us all away. Your mother, she found out. She begged me to end it, but by then I was trapped. When she became pregnant with Somto, she knew. She knew he was different. She offered her own life to break the chain." My chest cracked open with pain. The memory of Mama's tired smile before she slipped away filled me like fire. She had known. She had traded her breath so this baby could live. My tears poured freely. The keeper raised its smoky hand, pointing at him. "The bloodline head bears the weight. The debt falls on the father." Father lifted his head, his face pale but determined. His eyes flicked to Somto, who still glowed faintly in my arms. "Please," he whispered to the spirit, his voice raw. "Take me. Spare my children. They are innocent. I am guilty." The shadows hissed, the children's whispers swirling faster, louder, their voices full of pain. They wanted more than words. They wanted blood. Funka crawled forward, her eyes wild, her hands shaking as she clutched at Father's feet. "If you confess, they will not only take you," she cried desperately. "They will take me too, don't you see? I carried out your bargains. I am tied to this as much as you." Father looked down at her, his eyes dark with sorrow. "Then let them take us both. But my children," his voice broke, "they must live free." The shadows surged, the keeper stepping closer, smoke wrapping around their bodies like chains. I screamed, clutching Somto, my legs trembling so hard I could barely stand. "No, don't take him. Don't take my father." And then, twist. Somto laughed. It was small, innocent, a baby's laugh. But it silenced the shadows instantly. The keeper froze. The house itself seemed to hold still. That laugh carried a power I couldn't understand, so pure, so unbroken, that even the voices of the dead went quiet. Somto's golden eyes flickered, and for the first time I heard a sound. Not from the shadows, not from Mama's spirit, but from him. A voice, ancient and soft, inside my head. The bargain ends tonight, but the price is not what you think. The glow spread from his eyes into the room, spilling like sunlight, pushing the shadows back. The keeper's form trembled, smoke unravelling, its booming voice cracking with fear. "The vessel has spoken!" Funk screamed, covering her face. Father's tears spilled harder, his hands shaking. I fell to my knees, clutching Somto as the glow wrapped around all of us. And then the whisper came again, chilling and final. The child will choose who lives and who is erased forever. The light flared. The spirits roared. And my baby brother, no older than a month, held the fate of everyone in that room. The golden light spread like a tide, swallowing the room in warmth that burned and healed at the same time. My arms trembled as I held Somto, his tiny chest rising and falling, his glowing eyes fixed not on me, not on Funker, not even on Father, but on the shadows that circled hungrily around us. The keeper bowed its head as if it no longer had power of its own. The children's whispers grew louder, their cries echoing like broken bells. My ears rang until I thought I would collapse. Then Somto blinked, and silence fell. The light pulsed once, twice, and then, twist, the shadows began to change. One by one, the hollow-eyed children took shape. Their faces became clearer, their outlines more human, until they looked like real boys and girls, pale but solid, their eyes full of tears. They were no longer just restless spirits, they were children who had been taken too soon. One of them, a girl no older than 7, stepped forward and looked at me. Her lips trembled. "We don't want revenge," she whispered. Her voice cracked like glass. "We want to be remembered." The words struck me like thunder. I had thought they were here to drag Funker and Father into the grave, but no, the truth was worse. They were forgotten children, buried in silence, erased as though they had never existed. They wanted more than punishment. They wanted a name. Funk collapsed to the floor, clutching her head. "No, no, stop, don't tell her, don't let her know." She screamed as though the voices were knives in her ears. Father fell back against the wall, his eyes wide with shame. His lips trembled as tears spilled down his cheeks. "They told us never to speak their names," he whispered hoarsely. The covenant demanded silence. To remember them was to keep the curse alive. We killed them twice, once in the earth, once in memory. Somto's glow brightened, almost blinding now. The children turned their hollow gazes on Funker and Father. Their voices rose together in a chant, soft but sharp. "Remember us, remember us, remember us." I covered my ears, crying, but the sound was inside my heart, not outside. Somto reached his tiny hand toward the spirits. The light flowed from him, wrapping them in gold. Their pale faces softened, their tears glittering like rain. For the first time I saw them smile. Then came the mind-blowing twist. The children turned their eyes on me, not Father, not Funker, me. Their voices melted into one, steady and calm. "You are the keeper now. You must tell our story." My chest seized. "No," I whispered, shaking my head, tears streaming. "I'm just a girl. I can't—" But Somto's hand touched my cheek, his glow spilling into me. My body shuddered as a strange warmth filled me, heavy and endless. I gasped, clutching my chest. Suddenly I saw flashes, images of small graves, weeping mothers, fires in the night, bargains whispered in secret. Their pain, their deaths, their cries, all of it flooding into me like a wave. Funk shrieked and crawled away. "No, don't pass it to her. She is only a child. Let me carry it instead." But the children ignored her. Father's face crumpled as he fell to his knees before me. "Mira," he wept, "forgive me. Forgive me for placing this weight on you. I should have ended it long ago. I should have fought." The light flared once more. The children's forms began to fade, their smiles soft, their voices lighter now. "When you speak, we will live. When you fall silent, we will vanish." Then, just like smoke caught in the wind, they disappeared. The room was empty again, except for the four of us. The floor closed with a groan, the cracks sealing as though they had never been. The keeper was gone. Only the heavy silence remained. Somto's glow dimmed. His eyes fluttered shut, and he let out a soft sigh. Just a baby again. Just my brother. I sat trembling, unable to move. The weight of 100 voices pressed into me, their stories etched into my very soul. Funk rocked herself in the corner, whispering, "It should have been me. It should have been me." Father knelt before me, his tears dripping onto the floor. "Mira," he said hoarsely, "the covenant is broken. But the price is yours now. You carry their memory. You carry their pain." I looked down at Somto, his tiny fingers curled against my chest, and felt my heart tear in two. He had given me the burden. He had spared them. But now I was the one chained to their cries. And the thought that chilled me most was this: if I am the keeper now, what happens the next time the baby cries? The night after the spirits faded, the house felt hollow, like every wall was watching me. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, the children, their faces, their graves, their whispers. You are the keeper now. Somto slept peacefully in my arms, his chest rising and falling like nothing had happened, like he hadn't carried a glow that silenced spirits. But I knew better. He wasn't just my brother anymore. He was the key, and I was the door he had opened. At dawn, Father sat at the table, his head bowed, his eyes swollen from tears. He looked at me as though I were a stranger. "Mira," he said softly, "I will do anything to protect you. Anything. But the bargain is broken now. Those children live only through you. If you remain silent, they vanish forever. If you speak, their cries might wake again." I wanted to scream at him, to ask how he could have chosen silence all those years, but my throat locked. Instead, I whispered, "I don't want this. I don't want to carry their pain." My hands shook as I held Somto tighter. "Why should I be punished for what you did?" He flinched, his face crumpling. "Because he chose you," Father said, his voice cracking. "Your brother chose you." The words hit me like knives. And then, the twist. That night, when the house went still, I began to hear them again. Not loud, not like before. Just whispers at the edge of my hearing, the sound of little feet running across the floor when no one was there. A lullaby hummed softly in the dark, and then, clear as day, a voice, one of the children, spoke in my ear. "Keeper, we are not finished." I froze, my body stiff. "What do you want from me?" I whispered. Another voice answered, trembling with pain, "Our names. Tell the world our names." Images flashed before my eyes, tiny graves without markers, rivers where bodies had been thrown, mothers weeping into their hands. My stomach twisted, bile rising in my throat. The shadows weren't seeking revenge anymore. They wanted remembrance. They wanted the truth shouted into a world that had buried them in silence. But then something darker followed. A third voice, colder, sharper, whispered, "And those who silenced us must pay." My blood ran cold. The voices weren't united. Some wanted peace, some wanted justice, and others wanted vengeance. I sat rocking Somto as tears slid down my cheeks, my heart breaking with every whisper. I thought it would end when the covenant broke, but no, it was only the beginning. And then the hook, the one that made my body shiver to the bone. As Somto stirred in my arms, he opened his eyes again. Not glowing this time, but clear, innocent baby eyes. He blinked at me, then giggled softly. But when his lips parted, the sound that came out was not a baby's laugh. It was a child's voice. "Keeper," he whispered, though his mouth barely moved. My heart stopped. I almost dropped him in shock. I pressed him against my chest, trembling. "Somto?" His tiny head rested on my shoulder, his breath warm on my skin. But I heard it again, unmistakable. "We live in him too." I clutched him tighter, sobbing. My baby brother was not just a vessel of light. He was their home now. Every spirit, every cry, every forgotten child, they lived inside him. And I knew then, one day when he grew older, they wouldn't just whisper through me, they would speak through him. The days that followed dragged like heavy chains. I couldn't eat, I couldn't rest. The whispers never left me. Sometimes they were soft, like children humming, playful, innocent. Other times they were screams in the night, loud enough to rattle my bones. But the worst part was Somto. He looked like any baby. Tiny fingers, gentle coos, soft yawns. But sometimes, just sometimes, I caught something else in him. His smile would linger too long. His eyes would flicker with that golden glow. And at night, I heard voices come from his crib, voices that did not belong to him. One evening, while I rocked him to sleep, his mouth moved, and a voice too old for his body whispered, "The village must know." I nearly dropped him. "What village?" I asked, my voice shaking. The answer came not from him, but from the air around me. Dozens of whispers rose together. The covenant was never yours alone. It fed the land. It fed them all. My blood froze. It wasn't just father. It wasn't just Funker. The whole village had eaten from this bargain, knowingly or not. Every harvest, every feast, every healed sickness, it had all been purchased with children's lives. That night, I confronted father. He sat slumped over the table, the candlelight deepening the sorrow in his eyes. "Papa," I said, my voice trembling, "they're saying the truth is bigger than us, that the covenant was for the whole village." He lifted his head slowly, his face pale. Tears brimmed in his eyes. "Mira, it is true," his voice broke. "Long before you were born, our elders tied this land to a dark oath. When children were offered, the fields grew, the animals multiplied, and sickness passed us by. Everyone knew, but no one spoke. Silence was the law. And now?" He gripped his head with both hands. "Now it comes for us." I staggered back, my heart cracking. The village, the people I greeted every morning, the neighbours who brought food when Mama died, they were all part of this. My chest tightened as rage boiled inside me. How could they smile while children's cries fed their wealth? But before I could speak, Funk burst into the room. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. "They're here," she gasped. "The children, out there." We rushed outside. The night was thick, the moon pale and cold. And then I saw them. Shadows moved across the village square, small figures with hollow eyes, dozens of them. The shadow children had left our house. They had spread. Doors slammed. Villagers screamed as the apparitions passed through their homes, rattling walls, shattering pots. I clutched Somto to my chest, his glow flickering faintly, his tiny body unusually calm. The air vibrated with the sound of whispers growing louder, filling every corner of the village. "Remember us. Remember what you buried. Remember the blood you ate." Men and women fell to their knees, covering their ears, crying out. Some begged forgiveness, others cursed into the air. Children screamed and clung to their mothers. The spirits didn't touch anyone, they only haunted, circling, demanding. Then came the twist. From the crowd, the village chief staggered forward, his cane trembling in his hand. His face was twisted with fear, but his voice carried guilt. "It is true," he cried. "We made the bargain. We offered the children. Without it, our people would have starved. We thought it was the only way. Forgive us." The shadow children's whispers rose in a single unified cry that cut like glass. "We will not forgive." The ground split beneath the chief's feet. He screamed as shadows wrapped around him, pulling him into the earth. His cane clattered to the ground. In moments, he was gone. The villagers wailed, scattering in terror. I stood frozen, Somto's glow brightening in my arms. The spirits didn't chase the villagers. They only circled me, whispering louder, clearer, their voices filling my skull. "Keeper, it begins with him, but it ends with you." I fell to my knees, sobbing, clutching Somto. My heart felt as though it was being torn apart. What did they mean? What did they want from me now? And then, hook suspense. Somto opened his mouth again. His baby voice was gone. "Tomorrow, Mira," he whispered in that ancient tone. "Tomorrow the bloodline ends, or the village burns." Morning came slow like a tired man climbing a hill. I did not sleep. I sat on the floor with Somto in my arms and watched the sky turn from black to grey to the soft blue of a quiet promise. His face was calm, no glow, no strange voice, only my brother. But his last words still rang in my head like a bell that would not stop. "Tomorrow the bloodline ends or the village burns." I kissed his forehead and stood. I was shaking, but my feet knew where to go. Father was at the table, his hands locked together, his lips moving in a prayer that sounded more like a broken apology. Madame Funk sat near the door, her eyes hollow, her wrist still stained with that thin, dark bracelet that no washing could remove. No one looked at each other. We were 3 people in one room, each alone. "We cannot wait," I said. My voice sounded small at first, then stronger. "The village must hear the truth today, all of it. No more secrets." Father raised his head. His face was wet. "Mira, if they know, they will ask for blood." "They already asked," I said. The ground opened and swallowed the chief. "This is not about what the people want. It is about what the spirits want, and the baby does not want blood. He wants truth. He wants memory. He wants mercy that is not weak, but clean." Funker flinched. "Mercy for me? Not only for you," I said, "for all of us, but mercy has teeth. It bites away lies." I tied Somto to my chest with Mama's scarf. The cloth still smelled like hibiscus. It made my eyes sting. Then I opened the door and stepped into the street. Fear walked before me. Villagers peeped from behind doors. Some knelt and whispered prayers. Some clutched their children and wept. The square was full of dust and broken pots and bits of fear that had fallen from people's hands in the night. I climbed the old well platform and stood where everyone could see me. My legs shook. I held the rope for balance and lifted my voice. "Hear me," I said, trying to speak like Mama would have spoken, simple and clear. "I am Mira. My mother died when my brother was born. My father made a bargain in secret. Madame Funker carried out the sins. The ground has spoken and the spirits have come. But they did not ask for revenge. They asked to be remembered. They asked for truth. They asked for names." A low murmur went through the crowd. Fear, shame, relief. A woman began to cry the way a person cries when they finally stop pretending they are fine. Another man bowed his head and would not look up again. "The baby will not choose blood if we choose light," I said. "The baby will not choose fire if we choose confession. The curse is already broken, but the dead cannot sleep until we lift their names from the dark place." A few men shouted that it was a trick, that I was only a girl, that power should not sit on a child's chest. Before I could answer, Funk moved to the front. She stood with her shoulders bent and her eyes red. She held a small goatskin bundle to her chest, like it was a child. "I was a girl when they told me to carry the little ones to the earth," she said. "They said it would make the land kind. They said the spirits would eat and leave us alone. I believed them because I had no choice. I am guilty. I am ashamed. And I am tired. This bundle is a ledger. It has the marks of the children who were taken, the names I could find, the dates I remember, the places we buried them. Today I will not hide it. Today I will call them out." A silence fell. It was heavy and good, like the silence after rain. She opened the bundle and pulled out long strips of cloth, each with lines of careful marks. She began to read. One name, then another, then another. Some were only little signs where a name should have been. Some were names she could not pronounce well, with soft clicks and village tones. Each time she spoke, a wind moved through the square as if the air itself bowed. A woman near the back screamed and ran forward when she heard her own child's name. She fell at Funk's feet and sobbed. "I did not fight hard enough," she cried. "I let them say it was the will of the land. My child, forgive me." Another man lifted his hands and said a name through his teeth, as if it was a stone that had lived in his mouth for years. Others knelt and raised both hands in surrender. Father stepped forward and stood beside Funke. He did not try to hide. He did not try to explain. He faced the people like a teacher who had failed every child in his class and finally accepted it. "I led the paper through my hands," he said in a voice that shook. "I signed the line when they told me to. I am the head of my bloodline, and the curse sat on my neck, and I bowed under it. I ask you to let me pay. Take my land, take my work, take my rest, take my pride. I give it all to the children who were taken. I will not hide behind my grief again. I will not ask God to cover what I am too proud to confess. I am here." The people were quiet. The quiet was not empty. It was full of thought and pain, and something that felt like the first soft piece of healing. Then a child's laugh sounded behind me. It was not from any living child. It was light and thin and gentle. The dust at the edge of the square lifted, like soft feet were running through it. Mothers looked up. Fathers turned. I felt Somto's breath warm against my chest. I closed my eyes and spoke to the air that my heart knew was listening. "We will remember. We will say their names every year. We will build a garden for them. We will plant trees that bear fruit and shade. We will carve little stones and write short letters and sing a lullaby on the day they were given away. We will teach our children that no life belongs to the land. Every life belongs to God. Every life is full weight." The old women began to sing. It was a tune I had heard at evening gatherings, a tune of mourning and love mixed together. People joined little by little, till voices filled the square and the morning sun felt warm and kind. The keeper came then, but not as smoke. It came like a shift in the light, a quiet bending of the air. It stood at the edge of the square where the chief had vanished. It said nothing. It only watched. Funk finished reading the last strip. Her hands shook so hard the cloth trembled. Then she bowed until her head touched the ground. "Give me their work," she said. "Let me spend the rest of my days catching babies, washing babies, defending babies. Let my hands refuse harm forever. Let this mark on my wrist be my chain and my mercy both. If I ever break this promise, may the ground spit me out." No one spoke. Then a midwife, old and wise, came forward and placed a white scarf over Funke's shoulders. "You will learn," she said. "You will serve. You will sleep on the floor of the clinic until we trust your rest. You will wash the dead and hold the living. You will not touch any herb without another midwife's eyes on you. This is your fate. This is your door back into human life." Funke cried in a way I had never heard a grown woman cry, not sharp, not angry. Like water running from a high place to a river it should have found years ago. Father took off his work shirt and tied it around the well handle. "I give the school to the children," he said, "not only the living. We will build a small library in the Garden of Names. The first books will be about courage and truth. I will teach for free until that library is full. Every coin I earn will walk into that garden and lie down under those trees." A deep peace moved over the square like a slow wind. The keeper lifted its unseen face to the sky. The ground where the chief had vanished closed with a soft whisper like a page turning. I felt Mama near me then, not as a bright light, not as a hand on the crib, only as a warmth on the inside of my chest that matched the warmth of my brother's breath. "Sing," I said, though my voice broke. "We will plant the garden today." By evening the whole village had moved like one body. Boys brought tools, Girls brought water and cloth. Women brought cuttings from hibiscus and frangipani and mango and orange. Men fetched smooth stones from the river and set them where the old shrine had once stood. We pulled down that shrine brick by brick. We ground the old oils into the soil so they could not call to any heart again. We burned the covenant papers and mixed the ashes with palm oil and used that oil to polish the stones. Every step had a song. Every song had a tear. We dug and planted and prayed. We wrote the names we could remember on the stones. Where a name was missing, we wrote a promise instead. We wrote words like little one and beloved and never forgotten. The children ran between us with baskets and tiny hands, and for the first time in many days, their laughter sounded like life and not like echoes. At the edge of the garden, we built a low bench. Father carved a line into the wood with his old knife. He carved slowly because his hands shook, but the letters came out deep and clear. The bench said, "Sit and remember." The old women added a second line in chalk. It said, "Speak the names and light the lamp." Night came. Lamps glowed like soft moons across the garden. Someone brought a small drum. The lullaby rose again, the one Mama used to sing. And this time it did not sound like a warning. It sounded like a hand rubbing a child's back till sleep found the right road. I stood before the bench and took a breath. "We will do this every year," I said. "On this day, we will bring flowers and books and little cups of milk. We will invite travellers and tell them this is a village that chose memory instead of fear. We will feed orphans and build a clinic. We will not keep the pain inside our stomachs where it rots. We will speak and be clean." A soft wind moved through the hibiscus. The flowers bent like they were listening. I felt the shadow children gather, not to frighten but to stand with us. Then, one by one, I felt them lift. Not as smoke, not as cold, as light, as if the names we had spoken had given them feet. Somtu stirred and looked up at me. His eyes were only eyes, brown and kind. I kissed his forehead. "Rest," I whispered. "You have done enough." He gave a little sigh and slept. No glow, no ancient voice, just sleep. When I turned, I saw Funke at the clinic door with the old midwife. She handed over the last of her secret bottles. The old woman poured them into the earth in a hole where we had planted a young palm. "What makes for harm will feed this tree and turn to fruit," the old woman said. "That is how God likes to work." Father stood behind me with a plate of yam he had cooked himself. He could hardly cook an egg before, but he had tried. The slices were uneven and a little burnt. He put the plate in my hands like it was gold. "Forgive me," he said again. He had said it many times. He would say it many times more. But this time my chest did not break when I heard it. It opened. "I will forgive you again tomorrow," I said, a small smile finding my mouth, "and the next day, and the day after. But you must forgive yourself and work. That is the way." He nodded and cried again and laughed at himself for crying. I fed him a piece of the burned yam, and we both smiled. Weeks passed, the clinic filled with clean sheets and new soap. The garden grew, little hands plucked hibiscus flowers and left them on the bench. Father made a small shelf under the bench for letters. People who could not bear to say the names out loud would write them and leave them there. Sometimes I would sit and read those letters out to the air. Sometimes the air felt crowded. Sometimes it felt empty and simple like sun on a wall. Funk learned the work of mercy like a new language. She slept on a thin mat in a corner of the clinic. She learned to listen to a woman's breath and hold a baby's neck and whisper strength into the time between pain and relief. The dark bracelet on her wrist never left, but it stopped burning. As months turned, women asked for her because her hands had become gentle. When she laughed for the first time in front of us, the room looked surprised and then happy, like a door had opened that had been painted to look like a wall. The village chose a new chief. They did not pick a loud man. They picked a woman who had lost 2 children and still had love to give. She walked with a straight back and a soft voice and no fear of tears. She said the first law would be this: no child will be taken by fear again. The second law would be this: every child belongs to all of us. The third law would be this: when a person is in pain, we will not hide them behind a proverb. On the first day of names, the whole village wore white. We carried lamps and flowers to the garden at dawn. The air smelled like orange peel and smoke and something clean. I stood at the bench with Somto on my hip. He had grown strong and chubby. He clapped at every little thing and tried to put flowers in his mouth. When the song rose, he sang a baby song with it and laughed. His laugh did not change the air. It only filled it with joy. Father read the list of names this time. His voice was sure. It did not shake. When he finished, he closed his eyes and said, "Sleep well, children. We built a school and a clinic and a library because you were brave in your short time. We will not waste what your cries brought. We will live clean." The wind moved through the trees. The hibiscus flowers shook and dropped 2 soft petals at my feet. I felt Mama then, behind my shoulder, the way she stood when she was alive, and I was washing plates. I heard her voice in my heart for the first time without fear in it. "You did well," she said. "You turned sorrow into a road." I looked down at Somto. He watched the lamps with big eyes and reached for the light like it was a toy. I kissed his cheek. "You will grow," I told him. "Not as a vessel, not as a door. As a boy who runs and laughs and climbs trees and falls and stands again. You will be loved for you." That night when we returned home, I put him in his little bed. I stood for a long time and watched his chest rise and fall. The house was quiet. Not heavy, not afraid. Just quiet the way a house is quiet when everyone inside has told the truth. I turned Mama's picture toward the room and wiped the glass. "Thank you," I said, "for the courage you left behind." On my way to bed, I passed the shelf where the ledger used to be. It was gone. In its place stood a small basket with folded notes. Thank you notes, names, promises. I did not need to open them to know what they said. I switched off the lamp and lay down. Before sleep found me, I heard something soft and sweet. It was a lullaby, not from a spirit. From a woman walking past our window on her way to the clinic, carrying a bowl of warm water and a bundle of clean cloth. She hummed and the tune floated in and wrapped around my heart like a warm scarf. Some nights still carry a quiet that feels like a warning. But now, in this house, quiet also feels like a room where love rests after long work. The village did not burn. The bloodline did not end. The story found another path. The baby cried once in the night, just a normal cry. I rose and held him, and he smiled with his eyes still closed. No glow, no old voice, only breath, only life. And as I stood there, a girl with a brother in my arms and a whole village behind my back, I knew that a fate had been sealed after all. Not a fate of death, a fate of care, a fate of open hands and open mouths telling the truth, so no child would ever disappear again. It was not magic that saved us in the end. It was memory. It was mercy with strong legs. It was a cry that woke a spirit and then taught a people how to live. I lay him back in his bed and pulled the cloth up to his chin. "Sleep, Somto," I whispered. "Your work is done. Now it is our turn." He sighed and turned his face to the side. The lamp beside the bed flickered and went steady. Outside, the hibiscus bushes shook their red flowers in the wind and then stood still, as if listening to the last line of a story that finally found its peace.